What's going on, guys? That boy. All right, in today's video, I want to ask you guys, what decade do you think had the best games? All right, now, me personally, all right, this might sound kind of like I'm saying this because I'm young, whatever, but in my opinion, I think the 2010s had the best games of that decade. All right, now look at it. All right, you had Minecraft that came out in what, like 2011. So that game in itself is already like a top three game of all time. All right, like you can't really put many games above Minecraft. And I mean, come on, bro, it's fucking Minecraft. All right, like, I mean, just think about it. All right. Then you also had Fortnite, which came out later in the decade in 2017. All right. I know that the other game mode came out earlier, but when the battle royale dropped, I mean that shit was generational when it came out. All right. Like battle royales were already a thing, but like Fortnite like really pushed like the battle royale genre into what it is today. You know what I mean? Like that game was really like generational and like what it like really brought to the gaming community as a whole. You also had games like GTA 5, another like easily you can argue for it to be a top three game of all time. And I feel like with those three submissions alone, you can easily argue that the 2010s was the best decade of all time when it came to gaming. I mean, and like I said, you can add on more than that. You can add on Red Dead Redemption 2. You had God of War, Spider-Man, Batman Arkham Knight. I mean, you had so many games. You had Halo Reach that came out in 2010. Like you had the first Red Dead. Like you had so many games that came out during this decade. And honestly, I feel like it's really hard. So I feel like it's really hard to really debate that the 2010s weren't the best decade. Now, you could argue the other ones too. Like, don't get me wrong. All right, I've been playing games for a long time now. Like, I've played almost every console that has ever been. You know what I'm saying? Well, at least I've had access to. Like, I've played the PS1 through the PS5, all the handhelds, the PSP, the Vita. I played the Wii, the Wii U, the Switch. You know what I'm saying? I'm an Xbox fanboy, even though I'm on PlayStation right now, but I've been an Xbox fanboy my entire life, and that's what I started on. So I played the original Xbox, the 360. That's my favorite console of all time. The one, the series. Like I played, PC. Like I played, like I even had a chance to even play on a Game Boy, an Atari, the Dreamcast, the Sega Genesis. Like I played all those games. So even though I'm only 21, I feel like I still have like a good input on what I think like really was like the best generation of games. You know what I mean? Like I said, and this comes from like a person that just loves playing a game. You know what I mean? I've been doing it since I was like I don't know, like 3 years old. What I'm saying? I think my dad told me that when I was a kid, I was playing the original Halo on the Xbox, on the original Xbox One when I was a baby, apparently. So I guess I was just destined to be a Halo player. So that's my favorite game franchise of all time. You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny that I say that too because, Halo had their big three in the 2000s, so you would think that I would say, oh, the 2000s were the best, but I'm thinking more or less like objectively thinking, like you know what I mean. But I mean, I feel like you could argue the 2020s as well. Like 2020s they had Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate. You know what I mean? You had God of War Ragnarok. You know what I mean? You had a lot of generational games that came from the 2020s. You had the 2000s. You know what I mean? Like what I'm saying, the Call of Duty alone were amazing in themselves. You had, the Gears of War franchise, another one of my favorite franchises of all time. You know what I mean? You had the Sonic games, Mario games. You know what I mean? Like I feel like each decade really had their own thing going. You know what I mean? But like I said though, I feel like objectively speaking, I feel like the 2010s simply just had it over everybody else. Because I feel like the 2010s simply produced too many long, like lifelong generational games for you to not put it as the number one option. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you could argue everywhere else. Like okay, you could argue the 80s, the 90s. You know what I mean? But I feel like but I feel like if you really think about it, the 2010s just really had the bag. Like they really were just like, you know, on their shit. You know what I mean? Like it was just too many games that came out in that decade, like in that 10 year span. There were a generation that people still play today. Like I said, Minecraft, GTA, and Fortnite. Like those like the main three. But there are even more outside of that, which is even crazier because like I said, if those were the big three, and the other ones are still in their own right insane, it just makes you think about it. You know what I mean? And I kind of just know what you guys think about it, honestly. Because I feel like people are gonna have different opinions depending on like what decade you were born, and how you feel about what I'm saying, whatever. You know what I mean? So you might be born in the 80s, you might say the 90s were the best. You know what I mean? I was born in the early 2000s, so of course I'm gonna lean more towards the 2010s because that's the decade where I really played the most out of. You know what I mean? Even though I did play almost like every console, that's still the decade that that I really played the most from, that I have the most memories from. You know what I'm saying? Obviously the 2000s as well. I love the 2000s. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I just honestly just feel like the 2010s were just simply the best. You know what I mean? And like I said, you can argue me in the comments. I don't care. You know what I mean? But I just really feel like what what more can you ask for? You know what I mean? So hey, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this or whatever. I guess I can say a little bit about myself. I'm currently a college student. 21 years old. I graduated high school a couple of years ago. So, this is something that I want to do. I've been wanting to make videos for a long time now, and I feel like now, even though I really started YouTube back in like 2015 when I was a kid, I was back in like elementary school. That's really when I started. Like, I was going into middle school. That's really when I started doing YouTube. But I don't really have any of those old videos that I did back in the day. If I do, I'll upload them to the channel. But you know, I've been wanting to do YouTube for a long time, and I feel like hey, might as well start now. You know what I mean? Like you know, or in the age of streaming and I guess content creation in general. But I've always been more of like a YouTube guy. You know what I mean? Like yeah, I like watching streams here and there, but I've always been a favor of the classics. You know what I'm saying? Just watching a good old YouTube video. That's just what I grew up on. You know what I mean? So hey, you know what I'm saying? Bite me. I don't really care. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm out. Peace.